Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Friday Live on this Friday, July the 26th. We're coming towards the end of July. Next time we catch up, it'll be August. I cannot believe how fast this year is flying. Hopefully, wherever you are having a great day, afternoon, morning. The sun is here in Melbourne, so that's always a good thing. We've had a pretty cold week and a very cold weekend expected. So appreciating a bit of sunshine here this morning. And I've got a few questions to answer today, so I'll get onto those shortly. And as always, I'll just give the feed time to filter through so that anyone who's on YouTube or Facebook has a chance to be notified that I'm here and I'm live. So as always, if you are tuning in, feel free to say hi and let me know where you're listening from. As you know, I do love to know where people are. I love the fact that we can all tune in, even though we're in different time zones at this same time and be together at the same time. So I love that. So yeah, if you have just tuned in and joined me, feel free to say hi. And obviously, if you have a question that you would like me to answer, post it in the comments below and I will do my absolute best to answer it for you. If you are new to me or my work, my name's Fiona Lukeis. I specialize in giving you a fresh take on relationships and life, how to navigate them with a greater sense of ease, calm, peace, joy, all of those things. Relationships do not have to be complicated, nowhere near as complicated, nor does life actually, nowhere near as complicated as it would seem they are, nor do they require the enormous amount of work that we think they do, okay? So there's some myths out there that I am determined to kind of turn on their head and show you a different way of being in the world and being in relationships. So if you have any questions about that, pop them in the comments below, or if you just want to say hi to me and let me know where you're listening from, I do appreciate it. Love to hear where you are from. And whilst we're doing that, I'm going to pull up the questions for today's live. So I'm not sure if we'll get through all of them today, but I'll certainly do my best to organise that. So, all right. So we've got a couple of questions. We've got a few questions here. So I'll do my best to answer those as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, hi, Anthony. Hello, listening from Sydney. Welcome. Thanks for saying hi, Anthony. Really appreciate it. Hi, Jane from Methven, New Zealand. Hi, Jane. Nice to hear from you too, honey. And anyone else who wants to say hi, let me know. Normally we get someone here from the US or Canada. Okay, so coming back to today's question. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to answer them in the order that I received them in. All right. So this first one here. Hi, Fiona. I just listened to your book and I really connected to much of what you said. I'm struggling in my marriage of nearly 22 years, 4 kids and a business as well. My husband has been saying off and on for 5 years that he isn't attracted to me anymore. He wants passion, adventure. He has ADHD, depression and anxiety. Listening to your story, I was wishing it was me who was unhappy so I could change the way I viewed him and shift our situation. I feel hopeless as he is talking about separation again, and I have said I can't. Wondering if you have insight to share. Okay, first of all, I just want to say I'm really sorry that you're going through that. It cannot be easy when your partner says to you they're not attracted to you anymore. And I just want you to know it is not uncommon. I get lots of people emailing me and messaging me about this exact same thing. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to talk to about this. And it's interesting because this kind of came up on one of my relatable calls this week. So it's amazing how, we are so much more the same than we are different, and there's an interconnectedness between all things. So in response to your question, honey, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, if you're in a relationship, and I want you to think about this for a second, this is where we all need to think about what it is that we want in our lives. I don't think we think about this anywhere near enough, okay? Most of us are living life putting out spot fires in reaction to what is, rather than consciously thinking about what it is we want to create for ourselves, Okay. And I think part of the reason we don't do that is we don't understand how much we are the creator of our reality. We just, people don't understand this. They kind of intellectually sort of know it, but they don't have a deep knowing or understanding of it. And I think without a deep knowing or understanding of that, you don't understand how powerful you are and how powerful you are and what else is on offer for you. So we kind of accept the crumbs, so to speak, right? We accept the crumbs. And what I mean by that, and I'm just going to use this as an example. You've got a partner that's been saying for 5 years off and on that they're not attracted to you. Okay, that's something that they struggle with. Now, I can only imagine that every time you hear that, that's painful, difficult, your feeling of self-worth, your confidence, your belief in yourself takes a hit, right? It takes a hit. And then you kind of pick yourself up from that and, you kind of soldier on. I bet you're really good at doing that, honey, okay? Especially if you've got 4 kids in a business. I've got 4 kids in a business and I know how tricky that can be. But, to me, so your question is, and I wonder if you're asking yourself the right question, because to me, your question is, what insights do you have, how can I change our situation? But really, for me, the question is, how come that situation's okay with you in the first place? Like, to be in a relationship with someone that's not, or struggling with their attraction to you over a large number of years, right? Now, I want you to think about the toll that takes and how you feel. And then they come back to this place where they want to separate. Why would you want to be in a relationship with someone that's not attracted to you? That isn't all in, that's got one foot out the door. Like, this is the question I'd be asking myself first, as opposed to, how can I fix this, right? See, to me, that's the difference between thinking about what you want to create versus putting out spot fires and being in reaction mode. If I think back about what I want for myself, what I want to create for myself, and I'm not coming from fear, because a lot of us think about this from a place of fear, right? Oh, well, I would really like X, but I'm worried about Y, so I won't focus on X, because what about Y? Like, we're looking at all the what ifs and the how comes, and so we can't hear, or it kind of drowns out what it is that we want to create. And I get it. I lived like that for years. Okay, I lived like that for years, and it really wasn't until I came across the understanding that I teach some, 14 odd years ago now, that I started to realize that I was looking in the wrong place. I had it all wrong in terms of the way I was approaching life. And I had not really stepped into that space of really creating what I want for myself first. And, it was only as I started to do that my life took a complete and utter 360. Now, when I say 360, I mean totally broke, unable, like not knowing how I was going to put food on the table, really doing life very, very hard, to, the complete opposite of that. And I can tell you, I can pinpoint the change. And back then as well, being totally broke, my husband and I were about to celebrate 20 years of marriage. We were about 6.5 years in and looking down the barrel of divorce, like very much so. So I do know, like, I'm speaking from my own personal experience of doing a complete 60, because I now create life on my terms. And it's not about me. I don't mean it like that, but I'm working with life. I'm working with myself. I'm working with everything that comes my way, not against. And so many of us are in fear mode. And so we don't, when we're in a situation that perhaps isn't as honoring of us as it could be, where we're in a situation where, it's undermining our sense of self-worth, that we continue in the same place, right? So I guess the first part I want to respond to in that question, in the question that's been sent through to me, is, first of all, you have my heartfelt sympathies. I really mean that, honey. But I'd love you to think about why it's okay with you to be in a relationship with someone that's not all in, that's constantly got one foot out the door, because that would be exhausting. Okay, absolutely exhausting. And who's actively said that they're not attracted to you anymore. I just think about the toll that takes. And so the question, that's got to be your first question, right? Now, the other thing that I want to kind of add into this, and for those of you who've just joined us, hello, thank you for being here. Please feel free to say hi. I can see Juliet and Donna. Hello, Juliet and Donna from New Zealand and Brisbane, Australia. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. And so the next aspect of this is, you said, I wish it was me who was unhappy so I could change the way I viewed him and shift our situation. Now, you can change the way you view this, right? Whether that shifts the situation, I don't know, but you can change the way you view this 100%, okay? One of the biggest things that people realize, and it is so empowering and so, what's the word? It's a lightness that comes when we see it, is we are not locked into any experience around anything. Okay, we are not locked into any experience around anything. Hi, Ian. Hi, Carmel. Thank you for saying hi. Really appreciate it, guys. And this is something people do not know or do not truly understand to their core. You've really got to know this. A never equals B. It just doesn't. Now, people struggle with this. They struggle with this. And to me, this is a big part of turning a relationship around, turning your life around, and you generating the type of connection and all the other things that you want in life by truly understanding that. Because when we think we are at the mercy of X, which is how most people live their lives, and most people put themselves in a label or under a label, and then they're trying to fight through the label and everything that comes with that label and generate connection and overcome that and work through that. It gets really complicated. It gets very noisy in their head. There's a lot of mental load, and then people don't have clarity and they get stuck, right? This is why I don't do the labeling stuff like attachment styles and all of those things, because I found that whilst those things might be helpful, they don't move the needle when the needle needs to be moved. Okay, because then you're stuck in your definition of what your attachment style is, and you don't know what to do about it, right? Okay, can you see that? You get stuck in that definition, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm an anxious avoidant, and I'm in a relationship with X. So what do I do with that? It's like the minute you put a label on something, you get stuck. All right, and we are so much more than our labels, so much more. Okay. It doesn't have to be that complicated, but I'm going to come to that in a minute because there's a question about that that's been sent in as well that I want to talk about. Hey, Craig, thanks for saying hi. Liz, hey, Brian. Oh, my goodness. Hi, Brian. I haven't spoken to you for a long time. I hope you're well. So lovely to see your name popping up there, Brian. It really is. Oh, lovely. And nice to see you here, Liz and Craig. Beautiful. So I want you to know you can have a different experience of this, honey. And this is an important thing because, when you feel like, especially if you're in a situation like this, where you've got someone who's constantly got one foot in and out of the door. And I know for many people when they're arguing that this actually happens in a relationship where someone goes to that point, that's their way. They'll constantly go to that point where they're threatening to leave. They're threatening to end the relationship, which is very destabilizing for the other person because you then get worried about having any kind of conflict. You then get worried about things, any kind of disagreement. You get worried about anything that could go wrong because you're like, oh, is this the day they're going to leave? Is this the day that they finally go through with it? It's very destabilizing, okay? And so has people in that flight and fight mode, which brings out the worst in us, not the best. So, I want to say to those of you who are in that dynamic, you can have a completely different experience of that is available to you. I think the true potential of a human being, and I think the definition of this has been misunderstood over the years. We tend to look at potential in terms of what we can do, have, or achieve. Okay, that's how we tend to look at potential, in terms of what we can do, have, or achieve. But really, that is limited because if I said to you right now that I would like to go to Wimbledon, right? My goal in life is to win Wimbledon. I think pretty much 100% of you would look at me and go, I think that ship sailed, Fee. I think you're too old for that. Like, I that's not a possibility for me. I can't I can't have that. I might want it, but I can't have that. That's never going to happen. I'm way too old. And apart from the fact that I don't have the talent, I was a really passionate tennis player in my younger years, but yeah, not now. So when it comes to potential, to me, the true potential of a human being is we have the capacity and the capability to have any experience around anything. We do. And this is something my students and my clients realize all of the time. You are not locked into an experience of something or someone. And so this is why when you truly know that, this powerful thing happens, especially in our relationships. And this is exactly what happened with my husband and I. As I started to learn this understanding, I started to look at my husband with completely fresh eyes. Fresh eyes. Now imagine that. I want you to think about your partner, if for those of you in a relationship, or if there's someone you're struggling in a relationship with, whether it be, it could be a work colleague, a friend, a family member. Maybe it's yourself. Imagine if you were to look at yourself or that person with completely fresh eyes. Just imagine what would be possible. Because let's think about it. When you are struggling, you are relating to that person with the same thinking, the same beliefs, the same assumptions. That's what we do, especially when we've been in a relationship with someone for a long time. I find that with my couples all the time. People are working off an assumption that they don't even realize. And so, they actually get to know each other again with fresh eyes in a completely new way. Instead of, oh, my wife's this or my husband's X, therefore I'm stuck with this, right? Which is where we kind of end up. And there's nothing new there. There's no new possibility or potential in that. There's just, how do I make the best of X, right? To me, that's a really low bar. How do I make the best of X? I'm kind of stuck with this. How do I make the best of it? Like, you know what I mean? In terms of what's on offer, that's really kind of, it's not great, is it? It's kind of like, well, I just got to make do. There's just so much more on offer for you way beyond that level, okay? In terms of how you can feel, in terms of how you can connect, right? It's just so much more on offer than that. And that's what I want everybody to know. So I want to come back to this woman. Even though you're struggling and this is difficult, you could have a different experience of your husband jumping in and out like this, okay? Where it doesn't feel like you are, I would imagine it would feel like you are an emotional yo-yo. Like when they're attracted to you and they're okay, you're okay. When they're not attracted to you and they're not okay, you're not okay. Can you see that? And so you're this emotional yo-yo at the mercy of somebody else's moods, thinking, temperament, etc. Right? That's a really tough way to do life and a really tough way to be in relationship from. Right? It's utterly exhausting, and it's not very fulfilling. It's not fun. It's not anything. Okay. So I really want you to know you're not locked into that experience. That's the other thing I want you to know. Now, the third thing I want to say is this. It is never a good idea to put all of your eggs in one basket, right? What do they say about investing? You should have measured and smart investment strategies across a number of disciplines. Yes, shares, property, maybe crypto, whatever, right? I'm not offering financial advice here. Do not take financial advice from me. But, this is what they say about investing. And I'm going to say the same with anybody, with anything emotionally, okay, when it comes to your well-being. And what I see so often is people have got all their eggs in one basket, as in that relationship or in that job. And when that thing changes they crash. It's like, it's never a good idea. Here's what I mean by that. It doesn't mean you can't love someone wholeheartedly, right? Love someone wholeheartedly. I love my husband wholeheartedly. I do. I love my husband wholeheartedly. But if my husband was to turn around to me tomorrow and say, I'm out of here, right? Sure, I would be upset. Yes, I'd be devastated. That would be extremely difficult. But I have a strong sense of self. I have a strong sense of my self-worth. There are other things in my life. Life would go on. I would be okay, right? And I don't say that to diminish my relationship in any way, shape, or form, right? Like I said, I love my husband wholeheartedly. But if my husband turned around to me and said, I don't love you anymore and I'm out, right? Sure, I'd want to talk to him about it. Sure, I'd kind of, try and get an understanding. But if he was resolute in that, I would be like, okay, if that's what you need to do, if that's where you are, I love you and I wish you all the best. And yes, I would be upset. Yes, I would find that difficult, devastating. But I also know life would go on and I know I would be okay, right? See, I think people stay stuck in these situations that don't serve them because they're terrified of the outcome. They're terrified of what else, okay? And to me, that tells me if that is you, you don't have a great relationship with life, okay? You don't trust that life will work out for you. You got to hold on tight to things even though they don't serve you. And so if that is you in that situation, here's what I would recommend for you, right? You need to work on your relationship with you and you need to work on your relationship with life. And that will transform your relationship with others. I mean, those two things do anyway. And this is everything that I teach in my Relatable program. And if I'm working with a couple or anybody, we start there and then we look at the other person and the other relationship, because these are the foundational things, right? Your relationship with you and your relationship with life. Now, I used to have a pretty crappy relationship with life. I didn't have a lot of faith and trust that things would work out for me, right? I didn't believe that I would be okay. Hey, Carol. Hi. Nice to see you. Thanks for saying hi from Canada. And yeah, financial fear can be part of it too, Ian. Yeah, I've looked down the barrel of financial fear. I get it. Believe you me. But even that, it doesn't matter what it is. Those things, when you're looking down that pathway, you're not having faith and trust in what else is on offer, right? And so we just stay stuck and our well-being gets impacted. And then it looks like this has to be okay for me to be okay. So we put all our well-being into that thing. It is never a good idea to put all of your well-being into one thing. And think about it for a second. I'm going to come back to your comment in a second, Brian. I see it there. But I'm going to come back and read that in a second. So when you put all of your well-being into something, what do you run the risk of? I really want you to think about this for a second. What happens when it's like, I'm not okay unless that thing is a certain way? Where does that leave you? Just like, I'm going to invest all my money in the stock market. I'm going to invest all my money in property. I'm going to invest all my money in crypto. Okay. What happens? Anyone want to have a crack at that? I'm going to read Brian's comment. Hey, Brian. Yep, sure has been a while. I'm going really well. And I certainly thank you for showing me a much better direction with life. Where it's taken me and opened opportunities is mind-blowing, and that doesn't even come close to how grateful I am for crossing paths with you. I'd love to shout you a coffee sometime. Oh, of course, Brian. Anytime, honey. I'd love to. I'd love to have a coffee with you, Brian. Absolutely. Let me know when you're down my way. And 100%. Done. Absolutely. That would be fantastic. Carmel, yeah, it leads to a loss of self-trust, right? But it also leads to you feeling like, think about it. My life is not worth living without that. I am nothing without that. Right? I cannot be happy without that. So you put these massive limitations on yourself and you put yourself in this prison, right? Where it totally creates this feeling of I'm nothing without that thing. Now, think about the other person. If it's a relationship, we've put all of that on. What are you now putting onto the other person? Oh, what do you think about that? Right? What are you now putting onto the other person? Think about it. And I think this is a massive issue in relationships. People are like, you're responsible for my happiness, right? I can't be okay unless you like me and love me and you're happy with me. Like, that's a massive burden to place on another human being, right? It doesn't allow people to be to be who they really want to be in the world and be relaxed and just show up, right? Because when you place your well-being onto somebody else's shoulders, that's really not fair, guys. Yes, that's exactly right, Kamal. They become responsible for your self-worth. That's not a fair and equitable relationship. That's just exhausting, right? Nobody wants to carry that. Nobody. This is why your relationship with you is so important. It is on you to take care of that. It is on you. That's yours, 100%. Nobody else's responsibility. You know, people fall in and out of love. People change their minds. People are allowed to change their minds. Don't get me wrong. I'm a massive optimist. And so when a couple come to me, I'm like, I believe anyone can work anything out. I do. I believe anything is possible. And I will do everything in my power to help those people. But I also understand that your own wisdom is very important. Your own truth is very important, and that you honor that, right? That you honor that. Because when you don't, life becomes very, very, very challenging. And not only for you, but for the people around you. And I see this as a massive issue, really massive. And people don't take care of this stuff. It's really important that you take care of this. Okay. Hey, Lindy. Hi, it really meets expectations and sets one up for failure. Yeah, it does. It does. And it's not fair to another person or yourself. And this is where people get stuck in really toxic patterns of connection and getting over things and all of that kind of stuff, right? Hey, Carol, that's where I am now, stuck and disappointed that my marriage didn't work out. I tried everything. I'm really sorry, Carol, okay? I'm really sorry. And I want to say something else to that, okay? I know it's not easy to see this when you're going through something difficult. And if you've been listening to some of my stuff and whatever, I don't say this from someone who's never gone through extremely difficult times. I've gone through very, very challenging times in my life. So I don't say this from someone who's had an easy kind of flow on effect in life. I haven't, all right? I've gone through some very difficult times. But I do want to say this. If you're in a situation, no matter what it is, okay, whether it's the ending of a marriage, or maybe you've got retrenched from your job, or maybe you've taken a big financial hit, maybe you've got a health issue, whatever it is, there is beauty, I promise you, in every experience. There is beauty in every experience, because every time we are faced with the ending of something, a door closing, this is the opportunity to stop repeating, because often a door closes because we've been repeating, okay? We've been in a pattern of repeating. Maybe we've been stuck in the same job for years, or doing something that really doesn't light us up, but we've been too nervous to leave, and then the door gets closed for us. Or maybe, that relationship's never been great, but we've kind of stuck it out because we fear something, being on our own or whatever, right? When something like that happens, I know it's not easy to see, but I promise you there's a gift, because it gives you the gift to grow and expand. It gives you the opportunity to go looking for answers, right? Do you know the amount of people that do my Relatable program and say to me, oh my goodness, Fiona, I was going through a really difficult time in my relationship, or my partner had just walked out on me, and the marriage had ended, and I was just beside myself, and I didn't know what to do, or I was facing this difficult thing, and because of that, I did this program. I found this understanding, and I'm so grateful for that problem, because this is what I needed in my life. This is what was missing, was this understanding, and I wouldn't have gone looking for it if it weren't for the fact that this thing happened. Okay, so there is beauty in the difficulty, because it gives you a chance to expand, grow, step out of your comfort zone, and do something differently. We love being comfortable. We don't like change, and we like things to stay the same. So we struggle in situations that don't really serve us at times, because we're scared of the alternative. I get it. I did it as well. So if you are in a situation where something has ended, I want you to see there's an opportunity for you to grow. And if you can see that, and that's awesome, Carol, that you can, honey, right? Because there's so much on offer inside of that opportunity. Okay? See life as giving you an opportunity now to do that thing that your little human, as I call it, was too scared to do before. And something to step into, because that thing you were scared of losing is gone anyway. Does that make sense? So now there's space and opportunity. Or if you're going through a difficult time, it's not that something has ended, but you're going through a difficult time. It's like, okay, it's time for me to do something different. It's time for me to try something new. Whatever I'm doing is not working. I keep coming up against the same thing. That is a form of repeating. If you're coming up against the same thing, right? Then it's time to do something else. These are always great opportunities to do something else, because we will go looking for an answer when we are uncomfortable enough to do so. Okay, that's just the truth of human beings. We won't go looking for an answer if things aren't uncomfortable enough. I hope that makes sense. Hector, hi Hector. It took me time to realize you got to like yourself. Yes, absolutely. As you are. Yes. Being extremely comfortable in your own skin. Greatest thing that's ever happened to me, because I never was. Never. As you are, even without that person to reflect you back to yourself. Yes, that's right. Absolutely. You got to know that, irrespective of anything or anyone else. People who know that show up so differently to the world and so differently in their relationships. I cannot tell you the difference. It's incredible. People who are comfortable in their own skin, comfortable with where they are, they take life less personally. They stop trying to control others. They let go of things quickly. They're present. They're good listeners. They're way more playful, curious, open. I could go on and on. Okay. And so they create different ripple effects in the world. Their energy is different. So this is very, very, very important. And I've got to say, guys, when you're comfortable in your own skin, your level of well-being goes through the roof. Like, you make different choices health-wise. If you're someone who normally drinks, you don't feel like that as much. If you're someone who tends to scroll on social media to distract yourself from yourself, you don't feel like doing that as much. Like, you make better choices because you're in a higher state of well-being. It's fascinating when you see the continual ripple effects of that. Hey, Hector. Fiona, I want to thank you. Listening to your audiobook has helped me so much. Oh, you're so welcome, Hector. I'm so glad that that's helped you. I really appreciate you making that comment. I really, really do. You're so very welcome. Okay, so now coming back to the next question here. Hi, Fiona. My wife and I have been separated for 6 months and recently moved back in together. We have children, my stepdaughter who is 16 and my sons 10 and 8. I've worked out my wife has an avoidant attachment style versus my anxious attachment style. I'm going to talk about that in a second. It's been almost 2 years without any form of intimacy, which only perpetuates the anxiety of this runner-chaser dynamic. As a result of this, my lack of certainty sees me constantly play out arguments that puts us quickly back on the divorce path after some initial goodwill progress that was made in the separation period. The question is, do you have tips on how to overcome this loop cycle, and does your work with men address these dynamics? Absolutely, my work addresses these dynamics. And it's not just with men, it's with human beings, right? Because it's not just a male who can have the anxious attachment style, okay? Everything that I do is something that works for everybody, regardless of gender, because this crosses all genders. This is not about gender. Okay, this is about how human beings work. So I want to address what's been said here about avoidant attachment style versus anxious attachment style. Okay, now it's really important to understand, guys, that we are constantly coming up with fancy names and terms to describe things. Okay, this is what we do all the time. We're coming up with different metaphors, terms, words to describe the same thing. So an anxious avoidance style, right? An anxious avoidance style is someone, let me say this. I've just said the wrong thing. An avoidant attachment style is someone who generally shuts down, stops talking, doesn't give out as much when they're triggered. Okay, they are someone who's generally perhaps, they tend to be the people that, and if you're dating someone like that, you might send them a couple of texts, everything's going well, but then, their mood changes, something happens and you don't hear from them for a few days. Or if you've had an argument, they'll kind of shut down and not say much. And so with a person that goes quiet, or it seems they're stonewalling, or any of that kind of thing, right? Now, the anxious attachment style is that person that wants to talk it out. Talk. Come on, honey, talk to me. What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you all right? What's the problem? And they're kind of like this, right? Which only pushes the other person away. Now, I just want to say something about this. This is the most common dynamic out there. It's very, very common. Basically, what you have is someone who loves to communicate with someone who gets overwhelmed and doesn't communicate as well, right? It's really, that's just fancy terms that have been put on that. And this is the most common thing that I see, right? You could have really described my husband and myself. You could classify me as an avoidant attachment style and my husband as a more anxious attachment style type, right? You could. But the problem is I don't want to put myself into a label, because then it becomes about me overcoming the label, and all I see is the label. All I see is my husband's label, right? And in order for things to change, you have to transcend your experience. It's very hard to transcend something when you're stuck in a label of it. So it's very, very common, right, for people to be in that dynamic. So you've got the person that wants to talk things out when there's a problem, and the person who needs time to process and shuts down and gets very quiet, all right? So common. Now, most relationships are in that pattern. Why? Because I know that there's something in the way my husband is that's good for me, and my husband knows there's something in the way I am that's good for him. And so we instinctively look for in someone else what we need more of ourselves. This is what people do. Okay, this is why you're attracted to someone who's a little quieter than you, or if you're quieter, you're attracted to someone who's more outgoing than you. Okay, so because you can sense that that's something you need a little bit more of. Now, when a relationship is healthy, and what I mean by healthy is there's a healthy amount of goodwill, where people know how to navigate their frailties. Okay, this is an important thing. People know how to navigate their frailties. Everybody's got frailties. And it's more important that I teach you how to navigate a frailty than it is how to deal with an attachment style, right? Because think about it. A frailty, human frailties apply to everybody. Everybody has human frailties. Attachment styles are very, getting down in the nitty-gritty of it, are very different. And so then it looks like you've got to behave differently depending on a different person, and you've got to understand all this stuff, and you've then got to, can you see how complicated it is? When really, the attachment styles only become an issue when people's frailties come out, right? Now, if you knew how to navigate a frailty, you wouldn't have to worry about the attachment style. It wouldn't matter. Is this making sense? And so things become a lot easier and simpler. So everything that I teach you how to navigate human frailties, okay? I teach you how to navigate each other's moods, each other's insecurities, because no matter who you are in a relationship with, you could end your relationship tomorrow and go, you know what? I don't want to be in a relationship with an avoidant. I want to be more like me. You would still come across that person's frailties and your own frailties. These are things that don't go anywhere. I have frailties. My husband has them. The difference is I know how to navigate them well. And so they don't become a thing that creates all this sticky residue between us. We get over stuff quickly, and it's clean, meaning I'm not thinking about what happened last week, last year, last month. I'm not. It's done, it's finished, and we reconnect. And off we go. And I mean it when I say we reconnect, without all that residue, which, as you may have heard me describe, it's like a big emotional tumbleweed that people drag around with them, and then when they get triggered enough, they just plonk it in the middle of an argument, a situation, and then bring up all of those things to justify where they are, right? Which just brings you back to ground zero, and nothing changes, which is exactly what's being shared in this question, right? Which is, what do I do? Because we create this valuable goodwill. Things get better when we're separated. Then we come back together, and then now we are stuck with, right, our attachment styles. And I don't know what to do, so I keep doing what I've always done. My wife keeps doing what she's always done, and now we're stuck with. And I can only imagine that you get to this point where you go, we're just too different. We're just too different. We're never going to get past our differences, and the differences look like these massive mountains, that these insurmountable things that you will never climb, right? Here's the thing, guys. Relationships do not break down due to differences. They don't. I know that some of you are going to struggle with that comment, and some of you are going to tell me that I'm wrong, and that's okay, but that's not why they break down. Differences become the fall guy. Like, they take the heat when people don't know how to navigate frailties and when there's no goodwill. and when people are not in a good feeling with each other, and people are not navigating themselves well, okay, then it looks like it's because of the differences. But I promise you, when people have high levels of goodwill, when people are navigating their frailties well, when there is people are listening and there's connection and there's playfulness and we get over stuff, which is what happens when you understand how human beings work, because we all work the same way. We aren't as different as we think, guys, right? Differences, people don't care about their differences. They don't care. They just don't care. Trust me. You know, when my husband and I were struggling all those years ago, I was convinced we were too different. Convinced. All I saw were our differences. All I saw were our differences. And I was convinced I was married to the wrong person. I really was. I couldn't see anything else. Now, I find that funny that I used to even think that. I truly do. I find that funny. Our differences are still there, but I don't care about them because I know how to navigate them really well in a way that does not detract from how I feel about my husband, where there's no sticky residue, where I don't have all that stuff going on in my head, all that overthinking, all that overwhelm, all that resentment, frustration, fear that gets in the way of the connection. I know this is going to sound strange, but you do not need to solve all of your problems to create connection and have a great relationship. I'm going to read something out to you quickly just before I end this. This is from a session I had with someone who, as a couple that finished working with me. Where is it? I wrote down, maybe it's here. It's a couple that finished working with me a few months ago, and she booked in like a catch-up call with me. Hang on. Oh, here it is. With me yesterday. She said, I just wanted to touch base and kind of let you know how I'm going and just do a bit of a check-in. I'm like, awesome. And I said, how are things? And I wrote down what she said because I was so blown away by it. She said, Fiona, we were in the darkest of places, and they've got 3 young children. She said, honestly, it's beyond my wildest dreams from where we started until now. I was not expecting that we would be at this point. I was just hoping things could get a bit better. Never did I imagine that we could be where we are now. She said, I honestly don't hold on to anything anymore. She said, I used to hold on to everything and I didn't even know it. And now I'm so happy for whatever comes my way. I've lowered my expectations. I don't have expectations anymore. And she said, I had so many of them. What I have is this partner who is completely different. He's the same person, but he's such a delight to be around. He listens now. And I was someone who was so shut down. And she said, I've become such a chatterbox. She said, I had stopped talking for so long. She said, he's open to stuff. I'll have a good idea and he's really interested in that. Whereas before, he would just freak out if I had an idea. He'd get overwhelmed and shut down on me. She said he listens, he engages, and it feels so safe. And she said, I love Arnie more now. I pour more love into that man, so much more. And she said, and he feels really happy to me. Things were so bad between us. We were barely talking. We were fighting all of the time. I was constantly walking on eggshells. She said, it's unbelievable that we are here. She said, thank God for the light you brought into our darkness. It constantly amazes me how quickly I can put things down. I was in tears and I wrote this down. I said, do you mind if I write this down? I just have to. She said, by all means, write it down. Now, here's one thing you got to know. Those people did not solve all of their problems with me. We talked about stuff, don't get me wrong. But as they navigated their thinking, their emotions differently, as they focused on creating goodwill, their problems took care of themselves. Problems have a way of doing that, guys. They really do. Problems have a way of taking care of themselves. It's just that people are so hooked onto stuff and they bring it to things and they can't help it and they get stuck there, that they perpetuate the same thing. Hey, I'm just coming back to these comments. Laurie, makes sense, Fiona. I don't like labels. I don't like to be put in a box. Awesome. Because we are not a box. We are not our label. You are so much more than your label, guys. Please, 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 please trust me on that. Okay. Ian, how do you begin navigating frailties when trust has been broken? Honestly, Ian, if you really want to know that, do my relatable program. That's what I teach. It's all there laid out for you, step by step, understanding by understanding, insight by insight. It's all there. Okay. That's just something I cannot answer fully on a Facebook Live. Like, there's something you need to learn, but you can learn it. Anybody can learn it. It is the heart and soul of what I teach. But when you can't even communicate together, well, if you can't communicate, then you need to bring a completely different space to show up from, Carol, right? People, when they can't communicate, tend to try and force things, okay? They try and force things and they push things and they don't realize that they're doing it. And it just creates more of the same. You know, when you're not afraid and fearful of the fact that you can't communicate and you show up without all of that stuff on your mind, it is amazing what you're able to generate with another human being. Truly amazing. Hey, Deezer. Yes, it keeps getting better. Anthony, great practical advice, Fiona. Thanks so much for your wisdom. You're so welcome, Anthony. You're so, so welcome. Now, if anybody wants to know more about my relatable program, or you want to find out about working with me, if you're a couple or something like that, you can book a chat with me here. I'll put the link down below. You're more than welcome. You would be chatting with me personally. I've had many people say to me, you should get other people doing this for you. But at this stage, I really like to meet people personally and chat with them personally. So you will not be getting an employee of mine. You would be talking to me directly. So if you want to know more about relatable, right, or anything else, book a chat with me. I'm more than happy to spend that time with you. That's right, Deezer. Thank you, honey. It only takes one person to make a difference. Deezer has done my relatable program. Brian has done my relatable program. So a number of people on here have done my relatable program. All right, everyone. Oh my goodness, I've been talking for so long. Oh, Bex. Oh, hello, honey. Can I just say, as a new relatable member, do it. I feel in tears about how much I've learned already. Yes, you have, Bex. Thanks for sharing that, honey. I so appreciate it. Okay, everybody, take care. I will see you next Friday, the first Friday in August. If you have a question you want me to answer, send it through to me and I will take care of it for you next week. Okay, see you, everyone. Take care now. Ciao.